If we haven't met before, I am our product owner here at Gallus, Kyle Youngkin, and with us is our director of customer success, Matt Kadin. His first appearance in this
This
year's
year. Yeah, I know.
webinar series.
I'm sorry I missed the last one. Finally taking some vacation and just didn't time it right. So sorry to miss the last one. I'm sorry you had to
Sometimes
be
it works
dealing
out
with
that way.
Colin the whole time. So apologize for
That
that.
guy. All right. The title of today's episode is Using Your App as a Data Collection Machine. But before we get rolling on that, I just want to do a quick reminder. So this is the Pro Tips webinar series. What's it all about? These webinar episodes are designed to be 30 minutes or less. So you can get back to your busy schedule that I'm sure you've got going on. We're trying to inspire you quickly with maybe a deeper dive on a feature than you would get from one of our typical tutorial videos, and something that we've seen people using their app for that we feel like is more kind of like a pro level move. And then the idea as well is we're recording this session like we always do, and we post these recordings to our YouTube channel the same day. So if your schedule just works out or maybe you can't make it once, no big deal. We do these live so that if you want to have Matt and I live for like a Q&A, there's a chat box in your browser window. So you can ask questions throughout and we'll do our best to answer them to the best of our knowledge. So without further ado, let's get into using your app as a data collection machine. I'll pass it off to Matt to get us started.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. So we're going to talk about analytics for your app in kind of 3 stages. So we kind of broke this up into kind of beginner, intermediate, advanced, or easy, medium, hard, however you want to think about it. But basically, we're going to talk about first the analytics you can gather just from the dashboard within the backend of your app. Currently, there's multiple different ways to do that. We're talking about that first, and then we're going to talk about some more advanced ways to do that as well. So but what I'm first going to show is and talk about is just within your app dashboard, we have a whole section called App Analytics. This is very, rightly named because it has kind of some high level metrics. It's a way to you can put in a very specific date range, either the last month, last 30 days, last year, and basically get some numbers on like how many downloads you had in that time period, and it'll compare it to the last time period before that. So if you looked at last month, it'll compare it to the month previous and give you some like data, whether it's up or down from there. You can also look at how many push notifications were sent total to all of your customers. Punch cards, loyalty cards, offer locker, high level, like how many total offers were redeemed in this time period, and also some scorecard data as well. So these are all high level. It's not, you can't go down to the individual. Like if you have an offer and you want to see how well that one individual offer did, that you would have to go into the specific module of offer locker to look there. But these are more like generic high level things. But what's nice is you can also manipulate the date ranges very easily, like to give you some better, like, if you're looking just in the season or just in a specific month. And you can also export as a CSV all of the data at once or individual data sections as well for you to slice and dice or be able to like make charts or do anything else you want to do with that as well, or just track it month to month on your own, which is really good. We're going to talk about that later. Just getting in and looking at the data is one thing, but making sure that you're constantly like looking at it multiple different times of the year and also doing something with that data is going to be important. So that is our app analytics. So there is in the side menu of the dashboard over on the left hand side, there is a whole section called stats, and then app analytics is the first step right there. So that is number 1. Number 2, we're going to get into now the more like within each section, there are some metrics you can gather just within each section, which is nice to have as well. So one of the best ones we actually released, I believe it was last year, Kyle. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. It was pretty recently. We now have an export for your offer locker data, like for all your data. in the offer locker section, which is really nice. So if you do want to get that specific, how did each individual offer do? How many got redeemed? How many got looked at? All of that data is in the offer locker section, and you can export it at the top. There's a button now that says export data. And again, you can put in specific time periods, like you can put in a date range, you can put in the last, I think, 30 days, or you can do all time data. It just pulls all the data you've had from the time your app has been launched. And that is really cool because it creates a CSV that then you can go in and pare down and like filter by just one specific offer. You can filter just by redeemed. You can do a whole bunch of stuff using that CSV file to find the data you need there. Similarly, within like loyalty, whether you have a punch program or a points program with us, there's some analytics there as well. Kyle's going to pull up a one right now just to kind of show you. So he's going to show
I
you
was
the
going to
offer locker.
show real quick the offer locker one.
Perfect. Yes. So as you can see, the offer locker itself, each individual offer, it says available uses, unique views, redeemed, and redemption rate right there for each one. So these are all test ones, so you can see like
some bad examples on here. This is my test account.
Yeah. But at the top, you see right next to user lookup, there's export. So that's the button that we added last year. And again, you can just put in last 7 days, last 30 days, or all time, or any custom time period you want, which is super nice. This is probably something that, if you do a lot of offers, especially if you have like offers maybe every month that recur, or you have different ones throughout the year, you can see which ones work, which ones don't work, how many people are viewing them versus redeeming them. That's a big thing to see, like, okay, are people looking at them and then just like not caring about them, or are people just not even seeing them, and or stuff like that. So this one's really good. If you click on the loyalty program, that one's going to have some analytics right in the top. When you click on it, it's going to show you activity results, like how many people have redeemed and completed. So this kind of gives you like, okay, if they've earned so many points, if you have a punch program, but they haven't, four, maybe 5 people have completed a card, like they have one that's available to earn their redemption, but they haven't used it. Why is that? Like, why are people, getting them and not using them? Or maybe they're just forgetting to hit redeem on their app, and but you're giving them a free thing, and they might be able to get a second free thing. So but if you click on one itself, also they'll give you some more data at the top, like how many participants, punches, and redemptions you have there. This again just kind of gives you some good data, and you can click on each individual person and look at how, like, when they started a card, how long it took them to complete one, when they redeemed it, if they missed it, if it expired, if you have an expiration date, all that kind of data stuff too. So you can get really nitty gritty with like each individual person as well, which is nice. So the other thing you can do is under rounds, you can get data for all the rounds that people played in your app, whether they're using the scorecard just for regular use, whether you're using it for a league or a tournament. Every time anybody uses a scorecard for any reason within your app, it all gets saved under rounds. And so under rounds, again, you can pare down by in specific date range. So you can do like any rounds this year. You can look it up by golfer name or email. And then again, each individual round has like all the data, has the person's phone type they're using, which is kind of crazy. Like if they're using an iOS or an Android device, it has their email address if they put it in, their handicap if they inputted that. So it has the whole scorecard there for them as well, which is nice to have. But if you go back to the main rounds page, Kyle, it'll show at the very top, you can export all emails of people that enter the email while playing in a round. But also we added a while back, but it's kind of hidden here. This is export all app emails. Anytime you've entered an email in your app for any reason, you can export it right here. As long as you don't sell these people's information to a third party, you're agreeing to not do that when you download this. You basically can export into a CSV file with every single person's name and email that they've entered into the profile section, whether it's for offer locker, for your loyalty program, for just they put it in your profile just because they did, or for the scorecard GPS. So this is if you're just trying to get, okay, I want to get all the emails that people have put into my app ever. This is the way to do it. So this one, as Kyle's pulling up, just shows the name of the person, their email address, and all that kind of stuff. So Kyle has done this a lot. He's put in, a lot of fake names into his to his fake demo account there. So
Real ones too.
yeah, some of those are real, yeah, for sure.
Not to put
Those, some
people
minor.
on blast.
I used to use Kyle's all the time until he kicked me off of his. I had to create my own because I was messing his up too much. So then I think the last thing that is really a nice thing, again, push notifications in the app analytics is really nice to be able to like see kind of high level, how many total are getting out and how many are looking at. But when you click on the push notifications from the main quick start screen, that takes you to create a new one. But if you click on it from the left-hand side under engage users, or if you just click on it right above where it says compose, it'll take you to the history of your push notifications. So it'll actually show you each individual push, how well it did. It'll show you like the name of the push, so what text you put in, where, like who it went to, the audience, and then what the action was when they tapped on it, if it took them to another website or to another page within your app. And then it shows on the right-hand side how many people it actually got sent to, the total number of people it got sent to, the total direct responses is how many people tapped on it. It's kind of like an email click-through rate, if you're used to email analytics. And then influence responses is how many people open their app within the next, I believe it's hour, 2 hours maybe, that maybe they might have swiped to dismiss that notification because they were too busy, but they still opened your app within the next hour, meaning that most likely they were influenced by that push notification to open their app to check out what's going on and look at it. And now that we have a message center in the app as well, they can always look at it. There'll be a little badge on their app as well with a little number, so they know they have a new message and they can tap on that, and that gets them to open it as well. So, but these individual numbers are really great to look at. Okay, which ones did the best? Like maybe time of day, what day of the week, which like what you said. Like maybe if you just said, "Hey, we're happy Mother's Day," that might not have got a lot of direct responses. But if you said, "Hey, we got a bunch of open tea times today, like on a Saturday, like come out and play," like that might have got more. Or if you have like hey, tap here now to get this, buy something in our pro shop on sale, you might get a lot more people to tap on it if it's more of a urgent thing. So just seeing what actual like verbiage works, what time of day and all that kind of stuff, you can really get nitty gritty if you're just looking at trends. But again, you have to come back and look at this to see which ones have worked over the past. So, but again, we have all that data there for you.
One question we got in the Q&A from Mike was, can you explain active downloads versus push opt-ins and how to optimize user interaction? So just to give a little bit of background here, what Mike's asking about is this number up in the top right of your app's quick start page. You'll notice that there's 3 metrics that are provided here. So one is the total downloads. Total downloads is over the entire lifespan of your app, how many people have ever had it installed on their device. Active downloads is the number of people that actually have it on their device right now. So that's basically a subset of that total downloads number. And then the push opt-in number is out of the active downloads number, how many people have said yes to push notifications. So they would potentially receive a message that you send out. Here, you know what? This demo app is not doing it for me. Let me get into a bigger one so you guys can get a more realistic experience here. So this is one of our bigger apps. This is the city of San Diego. You can see here that they have over 70,000 downloads ever. They're a destination course, so their active download number is a little less than what we would expect from like a normal daily fee club. And then the push opt-ins is right in what we would expect, which is typically somewhere between 50 to 60% of users. That's industry standard on that. As far as optimizing,
I was gonna say you might see a little higher. Like private clubs tend to be a little higher opt-ins. You can see in the 60s and 70s percentage.
Yeah, because members are literally paying to hear from you.
Yeah,
so they want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then as far as optimizing user interaction, I mean, that's a big topic, of course. But I mean, just kind of like the broad strokes of that. I mean, you want to make sure that you're prompting them on a consistent basis to open your app. So push notifications are huge for that. And then also once they get into your app, you want to make sure that all of your content is fresh and updated, because that it's not a very great user experience when they go in and they see the last time a news item was created was 4 months ago, something like that. So you just want to make sure that you're going in there consistently and getting your info updated.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say similarly, yeah, it's better to be consistent than like you don't have to do it every day or every week, but whatever you do, as long as you're like, okay, we update it once a month, but if it's always around the same time every month, people will then know, okay, if they're looking at it on this day, it's current, that it has been updated recently. It's similar. I go to like if I go to somebody's website or Facebook page and see that it hasn't been updated or there hasn't been a post in 3 years, I know that's not like none of the information I trust. So again, just being a place where people can trust your information and go to it on a regular basis is big. But yeah, and also just the consistency. Again, whatever you're comfortable doing, just as long as you are, keeping it up on a consistent basis, that's where you will find better interaction. And we find a lot of times too, like as long as you vary what you're talking about, it doesn't always have to be selling something or talking about upcoming events. It could be, just saying, happy holiday. It can also just be shouting out, recognition at a club is huge. Getting people like if you have hole in ones or if you have somebody had a great round or won a tournament, shouting out stuff like that, people love to see, and it gets them more like personally invested. Like, well, I want to be in the app. I want to be shouted out. So we find the clubs that kind of do the best mix of everything have the best interaction typically. All right. So I think we touched on all the stuff within the app itself. We're looking kind of good on time, so I'm going to jump through this next part pretty quickly. So Kyle has some time to talk about the last part of our section as well. Some deeper analytics. So if you really want to get more nitty gritty about how many people are opening your app, how long they're looking at your app, some bigger metrics in that sense. There is what's called Firebase Analytics, which is part of Google. Google owns Firebase Analytics, which is a website that every app has. We created an account for every app. Some apps that have been with us for a long time had to create their own at some point a few years back, and we linked it to your app, so it's collecting all this data. If you don't have one currently, you don't have your own, we have it set up. We can transfer it the information to your account, make you an owner basically of the account so that you can get all this data as well, which is nice. But essentially, it is a very specific for mobile apps, like getting all the data that is listed here, like daily active users, retention, real-time analytics, top events, which is like just top things that they're doing, and then users by device, whether it's Android, iOS. So Kyle is going to pull open just an example of, again, I think it's City of San Diego that we're using because they're right down the street from where our office used to be, since we don't have an office anymore. But um, it basically gives you some high level stuff as well. So again, similar to like the app analytics versus like each individual module within the app itself, Firebase think of as more of a general high level looking at the top down of all users, and it can kind of give you total active users, like how much time they're spending, like what their session rate is, so how long they're in each app, things of that nature. So and you can kind of like click on each thing again, get some basic. They don't really give you too much opportunity to like change. They like, as you can see at the top, it has the last 28 days, and they have very specific ranges you can look at. You can also search by like individual time periods as well, but the data it gives you is very like there's only so much stuff they can give you here. But then, like as you can see here, you can see a whole bunch of different like average engagement time, like how much time they're actually using the app there. Then if you're like, hey, this really, you know, is exciting to me, and I would love to know even more about what's happening within the app itself specifically, every Firebase account is creates a Google Analytics account. So Google Analytics is even more more detail, which is even more in depth, and you can get very nitty gritty and create your own like uh, different I think I'm trying to say the word is like graphs and different things like that of that sort. So Google Analytics is if you've ever done SEO for a website or tracking stuff from your own website, this is where Google Analytics lives. Firebase is an offshoot like a smaller version, and you can link it to your bigger Google Analytics account. So you might have a Google Analytics account for your website. We can link your Firebase account to your Google Analytics, so you get all your data from your app and your website all in one place in one dashboard, essentially. So Kyle's bringing up the Google Analytics dashboard for the same app, the city of San Diego. But as you can see here, it's got some different charts and things already in there. So it shows number of users. You can come here and look at like how many people got there directly versus other way, organic searching. Um, which country people are accessing your app from most of the time. I mean, obviously, we don't even have your app available in most other countries, so it depends on where you are, depending on the app. But you can look at here. These are the events, is what they're doing. Like, screen view, how many like people updated their OS recently. You can look at a whole bunch of different stuff. So this is very, you can look at here like what actual button they were clicking on. So it shows Clubhouse, scorecard, tee times. It shows you exactly like what button was clicked kind of the most from different things here. So this is just over, again, the last like 7 days. But you can look at year, the whole time you've had your app, anything you want there. So we're not going to get in the nitty gritty of these because these are so complicated and very technical that, I mean, Google Analytics and Firebase are used by every industry out there for every mobile app and every single website. So if you want to learn more, you can go on their own website, look at their help documents. There's lots of YouTube videos showing like the best way to use each one, depending on what you're using it, looking for. If you're looking for something specific, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. So we're just letting you know these tools are available to you and they're there if you want it. It can be a little bit too much, but it is there if you want it. I'm going to kick it to Kyle now that we only have like 6 minutes left. Hopefully he can jump through his stuff pretty quickly. For the final part of our talk here today, it's not just like, okay, we have this data. What are you going to do with this data, and how do you collect more kind of stuff about your club itself?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Matt. And kind of to tack on to what Matt was saying there, if that piqued your interest and you're like, I have no idea how to access that, email us at support@gallusgolf.com and we can get you access to Google Analytics and Firebase. Okay, the last section we're going to talk about is collecting customer feedback. So what we've talked about thus far is a lot of things that maybe end users aren't so aware that you're tracking them. I mean, we all know like the world that we live in these days. If we go to a website or use an app, there's some sort of tracking in place so that it's seeing kind of like what we're doing. But it's important to actually ask users for how their experience was at your facility so that you can gain insights into it. And since we're sitting here in March at the beginning of most of your seasons for 2024, you may want to think about implementing this sooner rather than later. So then at the end of the season, you can go and look at all the data. So I want to talk a little bit about customer experience management really quickly. We partnered with a company called Players First. They're one of the golf industry's leaders in this customer experience management or survey collection. So they are way smarter than us at this. So I asked them to provide us with just a little bit. So I'll go through. So what is customer experience management? It's essentially continuously gathering feedback from your players, but it's also having a system where you can store that feedback. It's a lot of data that you're collecting, and then you want to actually have a user-friendly interface where you can go in and you can slice and dice the data to gain insights from it. When you're thinking about customer experience management, I mean, like, why do this? Basically, it's a really efficient way to listen to players. It's automated. I'll talk a little bit later about some of the ways that you can basically present your players with these surveys. And what's great about it is you don't have to think about it. Like, it's just happening. So then you're collecting that data from them throughout the year. It's also going to give you a better understanding of some of the root causes of the issues that you're seeing at your facility. And then from that, you can say, okay, like, people are really not liking their experience when they're checking in for their tee time. How can we fix that? But you can't ask that question until you see that it's actually an issue with your player. Sometimes it prompts you for that. So when you're thinking about the player journey, Players, they fall into all sorts of buckets, right? I mean, like there's tournament attendees, but then there's like senior players, and then there's juniors, and your experience for your members versus your green fee players. If you're a semi-private course, that could be completely different, right? So you don't want to throw them all into the same bucket when you're analyzing the data. So it's important to really segment them out and then think about what each group of people is saying. And I mean, at the same for your business, you got to think about which group do you want to please the most, right? Because you're going to have to allocate your resources to one of them over the other. From there, we want to think about, okay, like the player journey, right? So when someone is playing around a golf at your facility, I mean, there's all these different parts of their experience, right? Like you can ask them kind of like a general question, oh, how's your experience? But you're not gaining insight into how was it booking your tee time? How was the locker room? When you went to the driving range and you warmed up, were you satisfied with the conditions of it? All these different things, people may not just immediately surrender that feedback to you, but if you ask them, they're more than happy to give it to you. So the important part is asking. From there, you want to actually like analyze the data that you're collecting. So a lot of our facilities, they'll set up like a Google form or something like that, so that they can just ask the questions. That's great and all. It's, I mean, definitely a positive step in collecting feedback from your customers. But the problem that we've heard people have with that is, okay, I've got all this data. I've got maybe a net promoter score that people have given me. What does that mean though? Is this a good net promoter score or is it a bad one? You're not comparing it to what the course down the street is getting if you just have your one siloed survey. So what's nice about Players First is they provide something called benchmarking, where you can see how you're measuring up in your responses to facilities down the street. So again, like as I said before, they've done way more than we could ever hope to do with all this stuff, and they've got a really great interface for collecting it. So you're probably sitting there going, "Man, how much money is this going to cost?" Well, actually, the good news on that is we partnered with them to give you a free 3-question survey. There's an NPS question, which is Net Promoter Score, which is something that every business should be collecting, by the way, just to understand how your customers are experiencing your facility. But there's also some open response fields where they can tell you about their experience. And as I mentioned before, it's all automated. So we can set up a pop-up message in your app. We can also do like a button on the home screen, something like that. So think like someone's on the 18th tee and they get a message that says, hey, we really want to hear about what your experience was today. That's going to get people feeling like, oh, my opinion matters. And maybe they'll actually do something about that thing that really bothered me earlier today. Or maybe they'll just tell you how great their day was. Either way. So like I said, we had partnered with Players First. If you're interested in this, again, just shoot us an email at support@gallusgolf.com, and we would be happy to get you in touch with them, and we can set up that survey for free for you to get it going and make sure that you're collecting all of this data. All right, 1 minute over, but just to let you know, coming up next in the Pro Tip series, we've got 2 episodes. These are every 2 weeks. So the next one on March 21st is going to be talking about in-app marketing, something you definitely should be setting up before your season. Things like pop-ups, pages, news, just an overall freshening up of your app's layout. And then the next one will be on April 4th. We're going to talk all about tee time wait lists. So that includes our standby feature, but also the talk of the town these days, Notify, who we have also partnered with. We'll give you details on what that's all about and what our 2 cents is on the feature. So if you have any questions or want to get in touch with us, we have all sorts of ways that you can shoot us an email at support@gallusgolf.com. Give us a call at that number listed. Also, if you're anywhere with a gallusgolf.com domain, you'll notice a chat window in the bottom of your screen. You can always do that to talk with a live person. And you can always view our knowledge base at support.gallusgolf.com. All right, I think that's it, right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for showing up.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you guys for showing up. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Everybody. Bye.
The webinar has ended. Thank you for joining. Goodbye.